Ladies and gentlemen, this is Gail Morgan welcoming you to the Libertarian Counterpoint's Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. You've heard their point, now listen to the counterpoint.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. We're coming at you on March 10th, 2021. We're about 5-6 weeks into the Biden administration, and it's kind of crazy as usual. It's, I'm not even sure if he realizes he's that far into it or not. But before we get into any of this, let's introduce the panel. In our upper left-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. In our upper right-hand corner, we have our Screaming Eagle Freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. My name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. Today's show will pretty much be focused on a lot of the the crazy Biden blunders that we just sort of happen to be going through. The biggest one is $1 trillion blunder, and that's the recent rescue package that he's sending to the economy. That I'm not quite sure how necessary the rescue is. But that's what they're doing. $1.9 trillion.
Yeah, so, just shy of, might as well say 2 trillion, because
yeah, might as well. Yes,
yes.
Yeah.
It'll be well into the, by the time you add interest on the debt and everything, it'll be who knows what. But it ain't gonna just be 2 trillion. It'll be more.
They're not interested in interest.
No.
It's just, it's just numbers. Oh, yeah. It's funny money, and that's what it's.
everything is free. Everything is free. Yeah. Milton Friedman was lying to us when he said there's no such thing as a free lunch.
Yeah. Well, and the Democrats are essentially trying to show us this free lunch is a thing, I guess, nowadays, and. It was pretty much a party line vote. I think, it was done, essentially 50 to 49 or something like that, or 51 to 49. So
the Republican from Alaska was sick or something, couldn't vote.
Yeah.
So he's the missing one.
Oh, yes, okay. It was 50 to 49. You're right, Tim. Yes, it was 50 to 49, and Senator Sullivan from Alaska had to return there because of a family emergency. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not that it made any difference.
Yeah.
Kamala would have broken the tie anyway.
Right.
But $1.9 trillion full of all kinds of unrelated stuff to what we would think of, which would be a crisis. So, a lot of this isn't just for, figuring out ways to get past a pandemic. This is all kinds of extra goodies. So you guys have any thoughts on that? You guys want to jump into any of the details?
I'll just say something. We risk us libertarians being labeled Republicans in disguise or something, with our criticisms of these democratic concepts and these ideas. And, so first of all, I have to remind the audience that whenever they name these acts or these bills or these spending proposals, always remember, they always name them the exact opposite of what they are. So this is the exact opposite of COVID relief. This is COVID make it worse. Okay, this should have been named the COVID make it worse thing. Make COVID worse. That's it. Make COVID worse, or let's say make the issues caused by COVID slant lockdowns worse. So now we're going to just we might as well just dissolve the borders of the states, okay, and just quit this nonsensical federalism facade. We are marching down the road of just being one big, gigantic country, bigger than any other country, well, except maybe China, which is an appropriate comparison. And because of this lack of federalism. And so what I'm talking about is the money sent to the states to bail them out for their profligate spending. So they can just spend like drunken sailors. No issue. They can't print the money, but the federal government certainly can. It has a central bank that the states don't have. And so the states can spend with reckless abandon and allow the federal government to come in totally against the whole idea of federalism and bail them out, which is what a big portion of this, not all of it, but a big portion of this $2 trillion spending thing is. So, if I'm going to cry at a funeral, it is crying at the funeral of federalism on the altar of COVID and its so-called relief, which is really make it worse. In other words, make the whole country worse, make everything worse, get rid of federalism, bail states out. Once you get started down that road, there ain't never any coming back at all. So here we are. Let's go. What do you say?
Yeah, so much thing have been done in the name of COVID is unbelievable. And you're right, Tim. This package, which I think they said about 10% of it, only about 10% of it actually goes to COVID relief. But even that word relief is really kind of problematic, because the whole problems that we see in the economy right now is all government caused, government mandated. Shut down the economy, stay at home. You guys can't work right now. Okay, wear a mask and do all of these things in the name of COVID. They destroy the economy, and now they're going to come and give us relief. Now they're going to come and save us. And this is a real problem. And this is, and you're right, we are marching down this road where the federal government is going to be determining everything. There's so much pork in this thing is unbelievable, okay? Like, one of the things that I find so fantastic about this relief bill, and I put that in quotes because I don't think it's relief. What is fantastic about these states? They're going to bail out the states. But look at what happened. Look at Florida versus, say, New York and say California. These states, both of these states, New York and California, had all these draconian measures because of the COVID. Okay? Their economy went to crap. Florida stayed open for the most part. They had some problems, but they got through it for the most part, and they seem to be doing just fine. So now what is going to happen? This bill is going to reward those people, California and New York, because it's tied to unemployment in the states. They are going to reward the people who did the most to destroy the economy and the most to destroy our liberties. This is the madness that is going on here. And the problem further is that the Republicans are also responsible for some of this crap. I know the Democrats are doing it now. But the Republicans were passing all kind of bills to relief prior when Trump was in power, when Trump was still in office. So they are not blameless in all of this. Mm-hmm. We have some madness going on here, and we better very, very be careful. Otherwise, we don't know what kind of country we're going to be living in the next 10 or 15 years. We are marching down a road, a dangerous one.
Well, I think this is where it's important too, especially to point out as libertarians, that why principle is so important. I mean, we had a Republican in the White House when this thing went down, and unfortunately, we didn't have a Republican who could clearly delineate the principles of what we should be doing. Instead, he seemed to be sort of going along for the ride on a little bit of this stuff, and he kind of balked a little bit at some of the lockdown stuff, but still he pretty much went along with it. He jumped in on essentially banning banning evictions and other things like that, which was just, I mean, these things are just absolute nonsense. I mean, the idea that you can just wave a magic wand. And in fact, I think there was just recently a ruling in Texas where a judge has said that this is not constitutional. He
did, a federal judge, yes.
Yeah. Yes. So this is something that, finally a little bit of sanity, but a year too late.
Yeah.
And after massive damage has been done to so many people already, and the crazy thing is, this $1.9 trillion, it is not going to be the end of it. I mean, we have all these people who, as these, eviction moratoriums, go out, they're going to be way behind on their rent. Some people
Exactly
paying any rent.
yes.
And
what's going to happen? What's going to happen to all the people the landlords who are going to end up losing their property because of these moratoriums?
Yeah.
I and my wife, we do have some rental property, and so far we haven't had any problems, but it could happen.
Yeah. Well,
I guess you could, maybe if you want to go back further, you could blame it on too big to fail. The whole concept, a company is too big to fail. Well, how about the concept that a Democrat-run state with profligate spending and cutting their nose off to spite their face when it comes to shutting down businesses and so on, like in California and New York. What about that? Is a Democratic-run state too big to fail now that the government,
Right.
federal government, is coming in to bail them out? I think
Right.
so. I think it's and that would be their justification. Oh my goodness, we've got so many state workers. They're dependent upon this money. I mean, they sit around at their house now because they're at home because of COVID, and they're forced to lay there in their pajamas on Facebook all day long, doing their essential state jobs that we can't. Couldn't tell them like, you're laid off and I'm sorry, but you're not going to get a paycheck. Oh, no, we can't do that because they're run by Democrats and they are too big to fail.
But when you look at it, how many people in the private sector, how many workers, American workers, lost their jobs in the private sector?
I don't know.
And then
I'm getting conflicting reports. So I've heard, oh, it's not that bad. It's not as bad as we thought. It's gonna, and then but I've heard the opposite. I've heard, there's just a ton of people that have lost everything. That was what we first heard.
Well, the Bureau of Labor Statistics says it's in the millions. Okay,
it's in the millions. Okay,
it's in the millions.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, on the other side of that coin, how many state workers throughout the country, federal? Yes, exactly, 0. How many state workers, whether it's federal, state, or local, have lost their job during the pandemic? As far as I know, none.
They got a year off at home.
Yes.
With pay.
Yeah.
Essentially.
This is unbelievable.
Now, maybe some of them pushed a pencil or put a paper from one side of their desk to the opposite side of the desk. I don't know what. Of course, I can't say. Maybe there were people that actually did whatever work is done. It's certainly not work that increases products and services. That's not what they do.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
they're government workers. Okay, they push paper around. They make regulations. They make sure that so and so's getting paid, and and basically with taxpayer money, and that the other person is getting taxed. That's what they do. They suck in wealth from other people and they redistribute it to other people.
Yes, exactly.
Not the same people, obviously.
Well, one of the
but you see, this is the thing though. The lockdown was essential, according to them, was essential only for the private sector, not for the public sector. That's really problematic when you think about it.
Well,
right, Jason, I'm sorry.
When you say lockdown was, it's funny because the lockdown didn't affect the paychecks. There were an actual lot of government employees who actually didn't show up to the office, but they still collected a paycheck.
Of course. Look at the teachers' unions, the teachers right now. They're still collecting their paychecks. They're not even teaching our kids.
Yeah. Or they're teaching in such a quality that we would wonder why anybody would pay for it at this point. That's
true.
I mean, I've kind of wondered that before the pandemic. Yeah. But
even you're right. Even before the pandemic, we had issues with that. Yes, that's true.
Yeah, one of the other surprising things with all this too has been the cities the municipalities and the states as far as their finances were concerned. I had thought this was going to be an absolute catastrophe, these lockdowns, but apparently there's been enough federal dollars flowing to people and people just spending money that I guess it's created enough tax revenue that it hasn't quite been the disaster that at least I was assuming this was going to be for all of the municipalities. But we'll see, I guess, where that goes in the future, though, because there's still a lot of jobs that have sort of disappeared, and those jobs have to pop back up if they're people are going to get off the dole, I guess, and get back to work. So
maybe the state sales taxes collected by Amazon on the purchases has been a thing that they're glad that they enacted that, because back in the day, if you remember, Amazon wasn't doing that, and you could buy things on Amazon and not pay state sales tax.
Right.
Okay. Well, they put an end to that in a hurry, realizing that, oh my gosh, people are buying more and more from Amazon and less from the mom and pop store down the street, and even the Walmart down the street. They just go around all that kind of stuff. So anyway, maybe that's it. Maybe they had enough revenue from Amazon to make up for the drop off in revenue from the local purchases and stuff like that. Which is why all they care about is consumption, right? I mean, that's all. When they complain about, for example, if we give this money to people that don't need it, so we're talking about the spending like $1,400. Okay, well, why give $1,400 to somebody that had a gross income of $100,000 that year, right? So and then what was the main complaint? Well, the people that make $100,000, they get $1,400. They're probably not going to spend it. Yeah, they'll probably put it in their savings account. I mean, that's what I would do, and so so that's. Their whole focus is on consumption. It's just on spend. Just like what they do. I suppose they just, they figure if they can just spend like drunken sailors, then everyone else should spend like drunken sailors, which is why the average American doesn't have enough money saved up to make it 2 weeks, let alone, 2 years without income. They're flat broke, all of them. Because that's all they do. Spend. Nobody has any savings. Savings is super low.
One thing that happened as a result, talking about savings, Tim, one thing that happened as a result of the pandemic is that there have been a lot of savings put away by Americans.
So savings rates have gone up. Is that what you're saying? Okay,
yes, especially of toilet paper.
Dang, we bought so much toilet paper back in February and March that we don't need it for another 2 years.
Maybe
so let's save that money. Yeah. So well, that's good to hear, but not true for if you're in the government. You don't want to hear that people are saving.
Exactly.
Where's the tax revenue in that?
Yeah, it's true. And another phenomena that have also happened, which I think is obvious, is that online purchasing, spending online, have seriously expanded during the pandemic over the last year.
Oh yeah, it's a hockey stick curve. I saw it, in the online marketing world. Everybody's touting this as, it happened. It was something like probably pushing up against 10 years of growth in 1 year.
Yes.
That's how much of a hockey stick it was. If people are unfamiliar with a hockey stick graph, it's where it goes bumbling along on a kind of a slow upswing from left to right is the time on the y-axis. Oh my God, people have to understand what the difference is between an x-axis and a y-axis on a graph. I don't know who I'm talking to. I mean, if I say the y-axis, do people know that it's horizontal? And it usually on a graph, the kind I'm talking about, represents time. So you're I just have to be careful. I work with young people, and so this is how I know this, okay?
Yeah, okay.
If I didn't work with young people, that I'm like, you seriously asked me that question? No, okay. So yeah, so it's down, and the hockey stick is where whatever you're tracking just suddenly just takes a giant leap upward.
Right.
And so it's growth. It's whatever on the x-axis, which is a vertical axis, is being plotted. And in this case, it's online sales. Okay, online sales is on the x-axis. That's total numbers. And in 1 year, it just skyrocketed. Is what I have taken 5 minutes to explain that Leon was probably content with in about one sentence. Sorry, Leon.
It's fine. It's fine. But Tim, I have to correct one thing you just said.
Yeah.
The vertical axis is the y-axis, and the horizontal axis is the x-axis.
Yeah. Well. Before. Let's jump off.
Sorry.
Of this topic.
I'm sorry, but we have.
Let's jump off of this topic before all of our listeners are gone horizontal. I mean, I think our heroic teachers have already ensured that most of these kids aren't going to know what that graph is anyway. But speaking of unconstrained growth, one other area that we've had recently with Biden has been at the border. We've seen some unconstrained growth, which is just crazy. The amount of people now that are showing up, I guess it's grown sixfold.
By the way, I have to say that I take a correction from an engineer regarding those kinds of issues. Very, very humbly, I do.
Okay. It was not tend to do anything other than just set the record straight. That's all. Okay.
Oh my gosh. My 8th grade teacher, Sister Mary Therese, is not going to be happy with me. Okay, I'm sorry. So what about the...
I'm not sure that we're going to have much time for the border now. I think that's gotten away from us.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
So it's unconstrained growth, and what one crazy thing. I guess we've got to the point where you've got essentially SUVs with 25 people getting into crashes, and people are just I wanted to talk about that one. That's a good one. Yeah. But I think we have just a little bit. There was a quote from the CHP on that, and essentially they were wondering, how they said it was unfathomable that 25 people were inside this one car, and they said there was major intrusive damage. And apparently the vehicle only had a driver's seat and maybe a passenger seat, and everything else was gone, I guess, in there. They were just sort of, cramming people in as tight. And so he said, what it indicates is there's not enough safety belts for the passengers, is what the CHP says. And we obviously want to make sure that everyone's safely restrained inside the vehicle. So I guess that's their major concern here.
It is not the people who are just illegally walking across our southern border. That's not the main problem. The problem is the belt, is the seat belt that was absent. That is the main problem.
Right. So
but go ahead, Tim.
Just the head of the CHP was unclear why they removed the rear seats.
Obviously.
It's unclear. Seriously, you're not sure why they did that, and you run the CHP. Oh, God help us. Yeah. Well, it just goes to show you don't have to be too bright to work for the government. But
that's kind of what's going on at the border too. It's unclear to them why suddenly there's all these people coming across the border.
Tell me this thing. Okay, like if we don't have a country anymore, anybody could get up in Guatemala, Honduras, anywhere in Central America. Just get up one morning and just show up at our border and say, "Here I am. I need to have some rights here in the United States." This is madness. Come on. We have a country. There's a way to get in here. It's called legal immigration, which I went through.
Well.
So you did that all wrong.
Obviously. It took me 16 years and I did it all wrong. Tim, you're right about that.
Oh, my God. You had to take an oath and everything?
The whole thing, man. Live up my all kind of stuff. Swear allegiance and all kind of stuff.
It's time for our Knucklehead Noise Patrol, and it's not the knuckleheaded move Leon made of standing in line to get in. this time we're actually going to talk about something in the Biden administration.
Jason, I'm offended. Okay, I'm offended. You know, people get offended for everything. I'm offended by his thing.
You should look at you just have to look at yourself in the mirror, okay?
Well, according to the Biden administration, now this has to do with the border, but and apparently there's so many kids coming across now, and there's 20,000 beds short, and they're sort of scratching their head trying to figure out what's going on. And apparently the White House, at the press briefing, one of the reporters had asked Jen Psaki, she asked, at what point does this become a crisis? And Psaki's reply was, we had Secretary of Homeland Security yesterday conveying it's a challenge. We're going to approach this without labeling. So, everything was labeled while Trump was in there. It was all a disaster and, 24-hour crisis. And
the Democrats know how to twist the English language way better than the Republicans do.
Yes. They're always going to do everything better than the Republicans, better than the rest of us, because they always have compassion and they always have humanity. You want to see a good display of their compassion? Look at the inner cities of America. You can see the compassion of the Democrats. Look at you want to see their a display of their humanity? Look at what's happening at the border right now. Everything that they were telling Trump that he was doing so wrong when Trump was in office, they are doing it right now. But now they're doing it with humanity. Their way is so humane that we are not even good enough to criticize them.
It's funny that there were cages that weren't cages before Trump, and then they suddenly became cages when Trump came in, and now they're not being called cages anymore. Now that Trump is
you're right.
Still in them.
They are now holding facilities. They're not cages anymore.
I've got an idea though for where to put these kids. Is anyone who was registered Democrat, obviously voted Democrat, voted for all this, they need to start divvying up these kids into the homes of these registered Democrats. All right, you'd be just selected. You'll get a little notice that, hey, Johnny Gonzalez is coming to stay with you. He's 10 years old and he's from Honduras, and he needs a place to stay. We have decided to pick your house, and you will now be his guardian. Democrat.
On that note, I mean, just send them all to Nancy Pelosi's house, have them tear down that wall, and they can all have an ice cream party there.
That's right. I will surely vote. I will vote for Tim's idea.
Well, with a unanimous vote on Tim's idea, that's all the time we have in our show. So thanks for joining us.
Don't get used to people voting for my ideas, by the way.
By the way, we didn't ask for any identification on that vote either.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you at the next one. Thanks again.
Yes, we will.